I work as a music therapist, and I have been doing that for about 20 odd years. But I've sort of worked predominantly using songwriting. So when I first trained as a music therapist, songwriting, although I think a few of us were doing it, not many were owning up. I don't think it was considered to be an essential part of the kind of music therapy canon. Whereas when I qualified and I started to work with a colleague, Jane Lings, we set up some basic initial training courses on using creative songwriting as therapy. And bit by bit, we've been able to, along with other people, of course, we've been able to develop songwriting in music therapy to a point where it's often considered as the kind of the third pillar of music therapy, along with receptive music like guided imagery and improvisation. Um, and my work pretty well, uh, certainly for the first 10, 15 years, was very much in end of life care, palliative care, and working with the dying and the bereaved. And these days I do a bit more in community mental health and still quite a bit of teaching. Um, and I still support a couple of projects abroad, one of which is in Romania, and I get to work with the hospice out in Oradea in northern Romania, which is still uh, a really challenging and great place to carry on developing what I do.
Yeah, brilliant. And yeah, I know from a few people I've spoke to who studied music therapy that your work has been hugely influential in that field of promoting songwriting as a therapeutic tool. Why do you think it wasn't used much before? And is there any kind of reasoning why it wasn't originally used?
Yeah, I think it's less about therapy and more about songwriting itself. Um, I think that music therapy was very busy 30 years ago, trying very hard to be recognized as a clinical um, intervention and to get state registration so that which eventually it did so that you could originally train. It used to be a post-grad diploma and then it became a master's degree, um, all music therapists being state registered. And so there was this kind of very, very serious approach to it, which is obviously very necessary. But I think that got tied into a kind of feeling that unless you were sort of a classically trained, sort of grade eight on the piano musician, you couldn't necessarily um, do music therapy. Whereas along come geezers like me who didn't have that background. My background was in bands from the age of 13 and some formal music education, but not a lot. Um, and I'm doing songwriting and saying, look, everyone can do this. And so, in many ways, it kind of challenged that sort of hierarchy, if you like, around needing to be taken very seriously. Um, but I think once once we started to be able to contextualize it and make songwriting um, feel more like a clinical approach without kind of ruining the essence of it, and with help, from people uh, who had been doing some pretty pioneering work in Australia and Canada and America. Bit by bit, we were able to get people to see that despite people's feelings that anyone can do this, and it's not really what real musicians do, we've been able to change that to a large degree, I believe, so that people understand that it's an incredibly effective way of working with people who are struggling to say things that feel unsayable and finding it difficult to express what can often feel incredibly difficult to express, as you know in your work. Um, and songwriting is such a natural container for this. And I think we've we've been able to go a long way to convincing people that it has that kind of credibility. Having said that, I'm aware that we still don't teach a lot of songwriting on music therapy training courses. In fact, quite a lot of the work that I've done teaching therapeutic songwriting has been at universities other than those offering music therapy training, which is a thought.
Okay, so it's not including it in the actual music therapy course, but having a separate course for therapeutic
Yeah,
songwriting. Yeah,
sometimes I think. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Do you think are people are, are different people attracted to the two elements? Do you think is always like do you think lots of people who want to do music therapy are less keen on the songwriting idea, and people who might so if my example, I'm the same with you in a way where I was just a songwriter and I just songwriting. So I mean, obviously,
Notice how you're saying you're just a songwriter. That's
yeah,
see, that's the
that's
classic thing,
yeah,
you know.
yeah,
Yeah. Mm,
well spotted. Um, but yeah, that so I think I would have felt intimidated going down a music therapy route,
mm,
whereas again, and that's kind of a shield in a way, isn't it, to say like, oh, I'm just a guy who writes songs. It's
mm.
not so this can and obviously my songwriting is kind of slightly different as well. It's community songwriting stuff, but do you think there is a kind of divide in people's motivate? Like, always is everyone switching between them? Do you think, or would like to switch between them if they had the option?
And I know I think you're making a really good point. Um, a lot of people, certainly in music therapy, who find it difficult to engage with the idea of songwriting are people that have never been songwriters.
Mm,
And so they find it difficult to imagine themselves helping other people to do it when they can't do it themselves.
yeah.
Um, and, and I think perhaps more so in the past, people that were drawn to music therapy were more kind of conservatoire players, people who played in orchestras, people who perhaps had been music teachers and wanted to have this career change. Um, and yeah, they probably weren't as exposed as the likes of you and I to songwriting, uh, like you. I mean, I grew up in doing making up songs as soon as I could learn to play the guitar. I was 11 years old, and the minute I had three chords, the Beatles and the Stones and the Kinks were writing all these brilliant songs. So I thought I'd have a go myself. You know what I mean? It was like, but it also became, one of my, yeah, one of the ways that I express myself. It was your songwriting as a kid got me through some pretty hairy times, I think.
Mm,
Um, yeah, I don't know if that answers your question. I think there is a divide in the thinking, and through running some of the courses that we've run over the years, we've worked with lots of people who've come and said, "I can't do this." I've been a grade eight piano player since I was a kid, or I play oboe in the Halle Orchestra. I can't do songwriting, and of course, it's helping them to see that actually fundamentally they can.